Since you're mostly here to see the Lego, I will give a bit of my background while I'm showing some of the models. So this is one of my collection that I made for a comic convention that we are not having because of COVID. It's based on one of my favorite movies. As far as my Lego life, I have about 6 years of dark ages from building Lego, and that was during medical school and residency. There's a little bit of motion on this particular model. And this model has a semblance of a waterfall. And I'm sure you can recognize the little can of Barbasol down there. So I'll just pan out a little bit and talk a bit more about myself. So then it was mostly, so when I finished residency, went to Australia for a while. I walked into a Lego toy store, found a whole bunch of 12-volt trains, bought more of them than I could afford, and that was the end of my dark ages. And then as the kids grew up, it was really a solo affair or with the kids, until this is where the Seattle link comes in. The 25th anniversary Lego tour was held in, well, one of the tour stops was in Seattle. So I went to Seattle with the family for a holiday, and then we saw a huge display near the Needle from Pacific Northwest Lego Train Club. And so when I came back home, internet was pretty crude in 1998, but there's something called Rec Toys Lego that I got a hold of some other adult Lego fans, and we developed a club, and the next year we had our first show. And this last month would have been our 21st show, but again, like many other things, it was canceled. So this is another scene from the show. I took photos of it in the dark. If you look at the images, I don't know if you can appreciate, there's blinking blue light inside of the box. One thing that you try to make things to scale, and then you realize that Lego dinosaurs are not actually to scale. The Lego, these particular dinosaurs are actually about 3 to 4 times human height or minifig height, and in real life they're really more 1.5 times, so you can kind of see a couple more dinosaurs hidden inside the foliage. So in order to make it work, I actually had to drop the floor of this model so that there was room for the dinosaurs to hide underneath the foliage. If I'd started building it here, it wouldn't, they'd be sticking out of the top. So that's about it for this model. I did add a little detail that you don't see in the movie, but they had to have a second door between the entranceway and the main pen. So I did add an extra door in that space there. Any questions on these models, Robin? Okay, nothing yet. Okay,
no questions. Sorry, no questions yet. I've just put the word out to see if anyone has any, and I'll let you know when they come.
Okay, so this is this model is actually a Lego model, model 75936. And when I saw this model, I knew that I had to automate it. So the first step of automating is always to give it a red eye to make it look angrier or meaner. And then the next step was to make its head move side to side. And the trickiest part was to, whoa. Okay, are we gonna stay balanced? Okay, let's try the next phase, is to open the mouth. Okay, program, oh, there we go. Okay, and then cool. Close the mouth. Now, nice. I don't know if you can hear, but I put a sound brick in there And so when the mouth is fully open, it does the Lego sound brick roar.
Oh, that's neat.
It's pretty subtle, but it is there.
You can just barely hear it.
Yeah. I have
But
to
you've
open
got
up
the
the
sound.
space.
It can tell. We can tell. We know what the sound is.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have to do much change to the model. The original model, its head moves up and down. I had to get rid of that movement. And this section of the tail is 2 studs longer, and that's where the motors are hidden. And it's actually fixed. In the real model, this part of the tail moves. So my tail starts moving there instead of starting to move there. But I think those were reasonable compromises in order to give it sort of, still wants a tip, the scary look that you kind of saw from the movie. And of course, you've got your guy running away, and my son was hassling me that I didn't make the little biffy that he ran into and crushed in.
So we've got a question here already. How many pieces did you use here? And what was the hardest part of the build, and maybe your favorite part of the build?
Number of pieces, I purposefully don't count them because then I'd have to tell my wife how much how much the models cost. But this kit itself, I think it had over 3,000 pieces. Not all of them were, the dinosaur was only probably half of that. The most challenging part was actually the mouth, because to give it enough power to both close the mouth and open the mouth is relatively tricky given the pieces that you have to use. And then when I thought to use the sound brick, it was to pull it down hard enough to activate the sound brick was a little extra challenge.
Right. Right.
So and I'll show you some of the special pieces that I used in the build, but you can kind of see in the gap in the neck there's 3 gray wire looking things, and they're some of my favorite pieces. They haven't been made for a long time, but they're great pieces to use for
Flex
stuff
system.
like this. Exactly. So I'll move to the next model, and then I'll show you some little details of the builds. So this model is my Stargate. And so you can either dial Chulak or dial Abydos. And in here is a little touch sensor. So that stopped. And so the first thing happens is that this one dialed, and the top chevron came down. And then the second chevron lights up, and then it dials the next number, next symbol, top chevron comes down, the next light lights up, and then it dials the next chevron, and so on. It does it till it's done its thing. It took 3 of the old Mindstorms RCXs. Uh-oh, one of them must not be running. Just hang on. Oh, there, it just took a little while. It took 3 of the Mindstorms RCXs to make this work. Each Mindstorms has 3 outputs, and there's something hinky here. Sorry. I'm not talking to each other properly, I think. So each Mindstorm has 3 outputs. So I have 7 lights. I have 1 motor turning the dial and 1 motor running the chevron at the top. And then it stays there for a while. And in the movie, in the TV series, you get this big whoosh. And then you would be able to transfer from one planet to the next. Let's give you a bit more of a close-up look.
So Michel, you mentioned automating this one with 3 RCXs.
Correct.
Mindstorms RCXs. So we have one question. Someone's asking, what's a good way for someone that wants to get started with automating their build? Any tips for someone for the very first thing, maybe trying to add 1 bit of movement or 1 bit of sound or something?
Well, actually, this book here, The Unofficial Lego Technique Builder's Guide. Oh, sorry, it's backwards.
No, we can read it.
We see it the right way.
Oh, you see it the right? Okay. So it's, I still use it even though I've done lots of technique builds. It gives you little tips on how to change rotary motion into various kinds of vertical or horizontal motion. So it really is a very helpful book.
Yeah,
That's kind of,
Japanese author.
yeah.
It's I can't. We have to maybe hold the backup so we can see his name or someone.
Serial
Oh
Kimmich.
no, that's Sari. That's his. Yeah, he's Polish, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Polish. Yeah,
excellent
he
book.
has an awesome website as well.
Yeah.
But this goes into much more detail than his website does. Okay, I'll give you a few more close-ups of some of the details. Now, although some of the guys in my club would kill me, I do really quite like Bionicle, and you can kind of see there's a couple Bionicle pieces here. The base and this are both Bionicle pieces. And I don't know if you noticed on the wheel itself, there was another Bionicle piece, but it was red, and it's the Bionicle fist, but I use the backside of it as a support for the to hold the ring into
Nice.
place. You can see there's some neat little decal work on the shoulders, and obviously the decal on the dial. I had OK Brickwork. I sent him my rough draft, and he always pretties them up really nicely and gets them done. And this is
Is that
my version.
custom printing, or is that what kind of print? How did you make the decks?
I went online on the R.D. Anderson, which is one of the main actors, his website, and then I got the images I wanted, and then I put them in a file and I sent them to OK Brickworks, explaining. I made them the size I needed them, and I explained what I needed them, what color I needed, that I needed some background removed, and then he pretties everything up for you, shows you, gives you a proof, and then he prints them on real decal paper for you, and then you get it back, get it in the mail a little while later.
It's like a
He's really,
sticker then.
yeah, exactly. You can kind of see here. It's a definite. This is the whole background. This is all this clear is covering the decal underneath to protect it. It really is quite.
And your
slick.
little symbols on the Stargate are also little decals, or?
Yeah. So essentially, what I did with that is, and that I did have to break the golden rule of our club and use non-Lego stuff. So I went to the model train store and got a sheet of styrene, black styrene, cut it in an oval, in a donut shape like that, and applied the decal to it. So this is my spare decal in case the other one gets damaged. And that's kind of how, so that is stuck on top of the wheel because the Lego wasn't smooth, and the Lego part that I used there isn't smooth enough to accept for the decal to stick. So I did have to cheat and put something non-Lego in the wheel. Any questions? I can go into some of the building details now. So this is what a Lego sound brick looks like. And that one you should probably hear. It's a different sound. It's a siren sound, obviously, but that's the shape. And I think there's 6 or 7 different sounds. And the roar sound that I used was actually made in for a different dinosaur set ages ago. I stole the mechanization idea from one of my favorite sets. This is called the Technique Control Center, and it built a T-Rex that actually moved. And I think this was from 1987.
Yeah,
And
seriously old school.
the controller there, you could actually program a certain number of steps and it would replay them in the order you programmed them. So it was crude, but it was super cool. And so his tail would wag, his head would move in the opposite direction of the tail, his mouth would open and close, and you can move him up and down, the whole body up and down. So it was really it's just a hard to find, obviously, but an awesome set. So the main components that were used, the important piece here is this one here. That's called a flex cable. And if you kind of see the end has a little indentation, and that's how it's caught onto one of these hooked onto one of those. So in this case, I'll move it out. In this case, that would have been the tail and the head. So the head is loosened, the tail is tightened, the tail is loosened, the head is tightened. So essentially to run the head, I have another one of these on the other side doing the opposite movement. So one side pulls the head in one direction while the other one loosens, and then it goes back the other way, the head so that makes the head go side by side.
2 for 1.
Exactly. To move the mouth was trickier, and I tried using this technique, and it wasn't strong enough. So what I used is the new linear accelerators. So essentially, as you turn this axle here, it goes out with a fair bit of force, and then when you change the direction, it comes back. The disadvantage of this is you actually have to program it so that it goes back and forth. I didn't, and I haven't done that yet. So I was actually manually going forward and back on one of my controllers to show the model today. So that's kind of how that one works.
And for people watching, those linear actuators are available in some of the Technic sets now. And they do this stuff, some of these with some different techniques, like those flex cables aren't always available and whatnot, but there are ways to do all of this with currently available bricks and pieces.
Exactly. There's a really nice piece that does the same thing. It's a set
Yeah.
length. It's 20 studs, whereas these came in multiple lengths. The length that I used for the, I'm getting ahead of myself, but the length that I used for the, I used this as well for the Stargate. I used the longest one they made, which was 33 studs long, I think. So I can go a little bit more into the Stargate, unless there's some questions. So the Stargate was made feasible by this part, which is an awesome gear piece. And if you line 4 of them up, or tie 4 of them up together, or here there's actually 8, that's what you get. So essentially, this was my, and you have to see at the bottom, there's some wheels to act as a counter to the axle up here. So then if you're turning the motor, you're turning the gear, the whole thing turns. Now, obviously I've got other things supporting my model, so it doesn't rock and roll so much, but that's how it's done. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the model actually does have one white piece. I don't know what those pieces are called, and all the other ones are black. And what that does is I actually have a light sensor installed in about this position. And so when the white comes down to there, that's when the symbol for Earth is lined up at the very top, which is the starting position for the Stargate. So I know every time the Stargate turns, it always starts in the right spot.
Oh, that's cool.
Very clever.
When you're building models, you always have to decide on the scale first. And I decided to go minifig scale. And so one of the key components was actually to get the wheel turning, and I already had that figured out. And then the other part was to get something that looked like the chevrons in the original movie or in the TV series. And I did the TV series because in the TV series, only the top chevron moves. In the movie, all the chevrons move. And I didn't really think I wanted to have another 2 RCXs hooked up to the whole system. And you can see that this part is available and it's a good match, but it's a different color. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can tell actually quite a bit easier on TV. So that's a pearl dark gray, whereas this is a regular or the new
Right.
blue dark gray. But it's still pretty close. And in the model, I bet most of you didn't actually notice the difference. And it just so happened that this piece fit nicely in there. And I wasn't sure looking at the video and at the photo if the light was red or orange. And so fortunately, or unfortunately, this piece only comes in orange. So that made my decision easy, that it was going to be lit up orange. Now, these little pieces, as I mentioned before with the dinosaur, are good at pulling, but when they're pushing, they can kind of bunch up on themselves. So they're not really good at pushing. And I needed my top chevron to move up and to move down. So what I did is I used another one of my favorite pieces. And so I use that piece to pull it down, one on either side. And then I use this piece, and you can kind of see the little spring action. I'll just let go of it, and it just springs right down. So I have 2 of those at the top as well, and they help bring the chevron down, back up. They're reversed, so they bring the chevron back up when I pull it down against resistance. So I started building that last October, and I finished it the day before I went to Bricks Cascade, and I got I got 3 recognitions for it. The committee favorite. There were 10 Lego Masters there, and Amy picked mine as her favorite, and I got one of the technique awards called Form Over Function. So that was pretty cool to get 3 awards for one model. That's about all I had. How are we doing for time? Any other questions?
Yep. We had a question, how many dinos did you use in the whole Jurassic Park angle? How many different dinos
4,
do you
6,
have?
8, 9, 10, 11, 14. Plus the big one, 15.
Nice.
But I'm planning on building some more scenes, so I have quite a few more in my collection to use up.
Yes, why not use them all?
Exactly. Just I don't know what else I can talk about. Oh, let's turn him off.
Did he fall over?
Yeah, he fell backwards, so no big damage. I guess I could show this one again because I'm not sure how good my video was on the that I
People
put
were
in.
asking what this is from. It's from Stargate.
It was a movie that was
series.
released in I have it all written down somewhere. Just hang on. Written in motion picture in 1994, and a TV series called Stargate SG-1 that ran for 10 seasons starting in 1997. So only old people like me would know these things.
But it's all available.
Yeah. So you can see Chuk has his tattoo on his forehead as well.
Nice.
Now for the vests, you can buy vests like that from third parties, or you buy the Lego one and you use an eraser and erase the Lego markings on it, which is what I did for those. It takes about 5 minutes per piece, but it gets the job done. As far as where to source the pieces, I get most of my pieces from a website called bricklink.com. So I build as much as I can using my pieces with the right color pieces and the wrong color pieces. And then as time goes on, then I order more pieces and test it. And then eventually I have the whole model built. This one, as I said, took from early October to mid-March to get working.
Okay, a whole pile of questions coming in here.
Okay.
Favorite little detail in the Jurassic Park build?
I think it's the shaking of the cage. You know, like it's
nice. Yeah.
It was, and the other thing I forgot to show. Oh yes, this is something my son forced me to do. This is actually a module that comes out, and so
Nice.
I'll be able to replace it with another module, and you know which scene I'm talking about.
Right.
They'll have a crane with a cow, and they'll be delivering the cow as fodder there. One thing you can see in my dark photo is actually the red light goes on. There's a red light there. And I was hoping to actually have it flickering between red and yellow as this was closer or farther from where it should be.
And the light pieces that you've used, is this all stock Lego light stuff?
Yeah, you can sort of see the LEDs there. It's all stock Lego LEDs. No, I didn't. I stuck to Lego LEDs for all of this stuff.
And where can people get? Because they're sometimes hard to find. Where can people find the light stuff?
You can get them from Shop at Home. You're limited to getting 3 per order. I learned the hard way, but that's the one. That's where you get them from.
Don't buy them. They're not that hard to use once you get them. They're pretty intuitive.
Oh yeah. They're very simple. Yeah. They're very simple. And the other thing that's kind of cool is how the light reflects through this clear piece. It really does make it look like it's a projector. It wasn't something I guessed was going to happen once I put the LED in there, but it really has a pretty neat effect.
Put the camera up a little higher because we can't see that.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's great.
Very cool.
Did you use any custom bricks here or anything?
Yeah, the piping. The piping is custom.
Is it custom? It's not not flex tubing or whatever they call
No,
it?
this is flex tubing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But no, this essentially what I wanted to buy is I wanted to buy bulk Lego pneumatic tubing that similar to what Lego uses.
Mm-hmm.
And the European Lego website, I forget what it's called, Eurobricks, right? They have a whole chain of discussion on it. They had a store where a company you could buy from in the States. When I went around to buy it, they refused to sell it to an individual in Canada. And so I was scrambling to find something else. And this is actually just solid rubber. It's not a hole in
wow.
it. And it's 4 millimeters. It's a little, for solid, it's a little tight. I would have probably gone to 3.5 for solid. I got it from a company called Ackland's Granger.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's really easy to come by. But that's the only thing that I cheated on in the in these models.
So someone would like to see the waterfall
Again.
again,
Okay.
and
Oh, how it's built. Sorry.
there you go.
So can you see? Yeah. So they're using the big treads, and then you put the little Technique pins with a stud on them,
The half
and
pin.
then you alternate a 1x6, a 2x6, and a 1x6, and that way it goes nicely together. And then you can run it at whatever speed you want, right? It depends how you gear it, but I think going faster it looks more dramatic. Whoops.
So it's if you can, it's almost like a pair of Caterpillar treads.
Exactly.
With
With blue tile on it.
Yeah.
Blue tile on it.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So you've got about 3 more minutes before the
and the vehicle obviously has 6 Lego LEDs in it as well. You can't really, it's too bright in this room. You can't really see the, oh yeah, the top one you can see.
We can see them. Yeah,
we
look
can
great.
see it.
The Jeeps are a modification. There's a guy online who's been working on that model for like 6 years. Every 2 years he publishes a different slight variant on it. So I had to change it to fit the head, to be able to fit the lights inside, and I added the Lego doors that open up nice and easily.
Cool.
The big pile of poop.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I should put some little black dots floating around
So some
to
flies.
recognize that one, to make some flies around it. That might
How
be
many
my next
scenes
step
in
on
all do you have, Michel?
that. These are all I have right now. I have another one partially built, which is that opening scene where the 2 Jeeps drive up and they see the big brontosaurus or whatever chewing on tree leaves.
Right.
So
Where the doctor turns her head and
exactly. So I didn't have time to
look this
finish
way.
that one.
Nice.
And the movement of those people of those minifigs is not hard to mechanize. So that's one thing that somebody could easily do as a beginner. It's just make some pieces turn in a simple
Just 3
fashion
interlock
like
gears.
that. Exactly.
Yep. Opposite directions.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
You
it's
said
about
position-
5
How
o'clock.
long did it take to build everything that we see here?
The funny story with the dyno. I ordered the flex cable is really expensive, so I found somebody in Australia who sold it for surprisingly cheap. So I ordered it from there just before the lockdown, and then they stopped doing air mail from Australia. So it took 4.5 months for me to get the package, in order to find out that they'd mislabeled the part. That's why it was so cheap. And so I had to turn around and order the part from Europe, wait another month to get it from Europe. So that one's been, the big dyno's been in process for like 8 months, but sort of 5 months of that I couldn't do. This one has been built, this model's been built since the lockdown. So that's been my main thing I've been working on since the lockdown. Sorry. I'm doing it right there. And the other 3 models I kind of built in the last month, because I kind of had them in my head.
It's about 5 o'clock, so we're basically going to wrap up.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for,
You're welcome.
Thank
for
you.
giving us a tour of your models.
No problem. Have a great day.